Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Very warm welcome to this Monday, 24th April 2023 morning Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam discussion. Today we are reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, entitled The Cosmic Manifestation, text 31. Before we discuss on this verse, let's sing Jai Radha Madhav. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Shri Radhe. Jai Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Shri Radhe. Jai Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva, Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva, 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 Jaya Panchatattva, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura, Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakacarya Shodra Shata Shri Srimati Divine Grace Shila Isi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki Jai, Namacharya Shila Haridas Thakur ki Jai, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय, मथुरा धाम की जय, मायापुर धाम की जय, जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय, गंगा माई की जय, यमुना माई की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, सामवेद भक्त वृंद की जय। All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pāśād Deshatarine. Sarvam Shri Krishna Arpanamastu Krishne Materastu. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, Text 31. Nandaṁ cha mokṣyati bhayād varuṇasya pāśād gopān bileṣu pihitān maya-sūnunā cha ahny āpṛtaṁ niśi śayānam atiśrameṇa lokaṁ vikuṇṭham upaneṣyati gokulaṁ sma. Nandaṁ cha mokṣyati bhayād varuṇasya pāśād gopān bileṣu pihitān maya-sūnunā cha ahny āpṛtaṁ niśi śayānam atiśrameṇa lokaṁ vikuṇṭham upaneṣyati gokulaṁ sma. Nandaṁ cha mokṣyati bhayād varuṇasya pāśād gopān bileṣu pihitān maya-sūnunā cha ahny āpṛtaṁ niśi śayānam atiśrameṇa lokaṁ vikuṇṭham upaneṣyati gokulaṁ sma. Word by word. Nandam, on to Nanda, the father of Kṛṣṇa. Cha, also. Mokṣyati, saves. Bhayād, from the fear of. Varuṇasya, of Varuṇa, the demigod of water. Pāśād, from the clutches of. Gopān, the cowherd men. Bileṣu, in the caves of the mountain. Pihitān, placed. Maya-sūnunā, by the son of Maya. Cha, also. Ahny āpṛtaṁ, being very engaged during the daytime. Niśi, at night. Śayānam, lying down. atiśrameṇa, because of hard labor. Lokaṁ, planet. Vikuṇṭham, the spiritual sky. upaneṣyati, he awarded. Gokulaṁ, the highest planet. Sma, certainly. Translation. Lord Kṛṣṇa saved his foster father, Nanda Mahārāja, from the fear of the demigod Varuṇa and released the cowherd boys from the caves of the mountain, for they were placed there by the son of Maya. Also to the inhabitants of Vrindavana who were busy working during daytime and sleeping soundly at night because of their hard labor in the day. Lord Kṛṣṇa awarded promotion to the highest planet in the spiritual sky. All these acts are transcendental and certainly prove, without any doubt, his godhood. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. Nanda Mahārāja, the foster father of Lord Kṛṣṇa, went to take his bath in the river Yamuna in the dead of night, mistakenly thinking that the night was already over. Thus, the demigod Varuṇa took him to the Varuṇa planet just to have a look at the personality of Godhead, Lord Kṛṣṇa, who appeared there to release his father. Actually, there was no arrest of Nanda Mahārāja by Varuṇa because the inhabitants of Vrindavana were always engaged in thinking of Kṛṣṇa, in constant meditation on the personality of Godhead in a particular form of samadhi or trance of bhakti yoga. They had no fear of the miseries of material existence. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed that to be in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead by full surrender in transcendental love frees one from the miseries inflicted by the laws of material nature. Here it is clearly mentioned that the inhabitants of Vrindavana were extremely busy in the hard labor of their day's work. And due to the day's hard labor, they were engaged in sound sleep at night. So practically, they had very little time to devote to meditation or to the other paraphernalia of spiritual activities. But factually, they were engaged in the highest spiritual activities only. Everything done by them was spiritualized because everything was dovetailed in their relationship with Lord Sri Krishna. The central point of activities was Krishna, and as such, the so called activities in the material world were saturated with spiritual potency. That is the advantage of the way of Bhakti Yoga. One should discharge one's duty on Lord Krishna's behalf, and all one's actions will be saturated with Krishna thought, the highest pattern of trance in spiritual realization. Before we discuss on this verse, let us offer some prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namashreshtham Manamapi Shachiputram Matra Swarupam Rupam Tasyagrajam Murupurim Mathurim Goshthavati Radha Kundam Girivaram Maho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sargana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Adadandastranam Dante Idam Yachaha Punaha Punaha Shriman Rupa Padam Bhojam Dhulisyam Janma Janmani. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, Text 31. Nandaṁ cha mokṣyati bhayād varuṇasya pāśād gopān bileṣu pihitān maya-sūnunā cha ahny āpṛtaṁ niśi śayānam atiśrameṇa lokaṁ vikuṇṭham upaneṣyati gokulaṁ sma. Lord Krishna saved his foster father Nanda Mahārāja from the fear of the demigod Varuṇa and released the cowherd boys from the caves of the mountain, for they were placed there by the son of Maya. Also to the inhabitants of Vrindavana who were busy working during daytime and sleeping soundly at night because of their hard labor in the day, Lord Krishna awarded promotion to the highest planet in the spiritual sky. All these acts are transcendental and certainly prove, without any doubt, his godhood. So here we see Lord Brahma is giving the description of the wonderful activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. This is the goal of human form of life. Somehow or other, if one can hear and remember and chant the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is the goal of the human form of life. As the gopis of Vrindavana, they mention Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavibhiriditam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Bhuvi Grunanti Ye Bhuri Dajana. So that is when we are hearing about the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, It is nectar in itself. It is amritam. The katha or the stories or the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is amrita, nectar. Kavibhiriditam kalmashapaham. So, Shravana Mangalam Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So, when we are hearing about the Lord and his wonderful divine pastimes, it is Mangalam. It is auspicious in itself. Shravana Mangalam Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Bhuvi Grunanti Bhuridajana. So, the people who are really munificent, they are constantly remembering, hearing, Shrinvanti Gayanti Grunanti Abhikshnasha. Taeva Pashyanti. So Kunti Devi mentions in her prayers to Sri Kṛṣṇa that this is what the pure devotees of the Lord are always constantly doing. Shrinvanti Gayanti Grunanti. They are hearing about Kṛṣṇa. They are talking about Kṛṣṇa, singing about Kṛṣṇa, chanting about Kṛṣṇa. Gayanti. Grunanti. They are remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Taeva Pashyanti. So it is mentioned by Srimati Kunti Devi that they actually see you directly. So when one is being engrossed in the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is the goal of the human form of life. Janma karmam cha me divyam evam yo veti tatvatah tyaktva deham punarjanmam naiti mameti so Arjuna. As Kṛṣṇa mentions in Bhagavad Gita, that when one clearly understands that his janma and karma, his birth and his activities are divyam, divine, transcendental, when one knows, evam yoveti tattvata, in truth, when one knows this, tyaktva deham punarjanmam naiti. After giving up this body, one does not take another material body. Then what happens to such a person? Mam eti so Arjuna. Kṛṣṇa says that such a person comes back to me. So this is the summum bonum of the existence in the human form of life. When we can focus ourselves on the verses like these. So here, let us try and understand the verse here. Nandaṁ cha mokṣyati bhayād varuṇasya pāśād. So it is starting with the word Nanda, which is indicating Nanda Mahārāja. So Nanda Nandana, this is another name of Sri Kṛṣṇa. Is the son of Nanda Mahārāja. Nanda Sūnu, another name of Kṛṣṇa. Sūnu means one who is son. So he is the son of Nanda Mahārāja. Nanda Sūnu, Nanda Nandana. So Kṛṣṇa has got unlimited names. Namnamakari Baudha, Nija Sarva Shakti. And in each of his name, it is full of power. What kind of power the names of the Lord has? It can immediately bring one to the transcendental realm. At that particular moment, one can reach Goloka eva nivasati akhilatma bhuto. Govinda Madipurusham tamaham bhajami. So Kṛṣṇa's abode is Goloka Vrindavan Dham. And if one is remembering the names of the Lord, Namnamakari Baudha Nija Sarva Shakti, one is immediately Abhinnatvat Nama Namino. Nama Chintamani Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddho Nitya Mukto Abhinnatvat Nama Namino. It is mentioned about the name of Kṛṣṇa and his unlimited names that Abhinnatvat Nama Chintamani. Chintamani Prakara Sadmashu Kalpa Vriksha Lakshavrteshu Surabhirla Vipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Shatasambrama Sevimanam Govinda Madipurusham Tamam Bhajami. So that is Chintamani. That is a touchstone. So the name of the Lord is like a touchstone. What does the touchstone do? If one touches the touchstone, immediately one can get whatever one wishes for. It grants all the wishes of a person. So that is a touchstone. So the name of the Lord, it is said that it can grant any wish of the person. But this is the akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udharadi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. So we are there is this verse in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam which says that if one does not have any desires, or if one has unlimited desires, akama sarva kamo va, or if one has a desire for liberation, moksha kama udharadi, tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. It is said that it does not matter whether one does not have any desire, one has number of desires, or one has a desire for liberation. One has to somehow or other approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the wonderful. We see this in the story of Dhruva Maharaj as well. That initially Dhruva Maharaj was worshipping Lord Vishnu with the intention that he is loved by his father again. He gets to sit on his father's lap. So it was very simple desire. But then he actually, when he saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, after his constant and continuous and concentrated remembrance and chanting the names of the Lord, he says that Swamin Kritharthosmi Varamna Yache. Sthanabilashi tapasis sthitoham yam prapyavan deva munindra vrindam kachan vichinvan api divya ratnam Swamin Kritharthosmi Varamna Yache. So this is what Dhruva Maharaj says when he sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead after his remembrance and tapasya, his austerity. So he says that you are actually someone like a diamond, and I was looking after this broken pieces of glasses. So that is when one actually has got that even an iota of the taste of involving in the remembrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, pure remembrance, pure chanting, pure hearing. When one is even an iota of the taste, one will understand that that is superior to everything else in the whole world. One can accumulate and accumulate. One can be even in the state of Brahman realization. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kaṅkṣati samas sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. As Kṛṣṇa mentions in Bhagavad Gita, the Brahma bhuta stage, that is a stage when one realizes aham brahmasmi. One realizes that one is an eternal part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But in the Brahman realization, there is a chance that one is still in the impersonal mode of realization. So therefore Kṛṣṇa says, in that impersonal state, na shochati na kaṅkṣati. So in the impersonal state, one might actually think that sarvam khalmidam brahman, which is actually true. But that Brahman is the rays of the coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hiranmayena patrena satyasya pahitam mukham tattvam pusham apavrunu satya dharmaya drishtaye. So it is mentioned in Sri Ishopanishad, the devotee is praying to the Supreme Personality of Godhead that, "O Lord, please remove your glaring effulgence. Hiran satyasya, and please show us your wonderful, beautiful, divine, transcendental face." So the Hiranmayena patrena satyasya pahitam mukham tattvam pushan apavrunu satya dharmaya drishtaye. And please nourish us by showing us your divine face. So this is the wonderful, unlimited, transcendental, divine state of being in loving devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is what is mentioned in this verse very particularly. So what is the difference between impersonal realization and the realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Kṛṣṇa? The difference is in the realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Kṛṣṇa, there is establishment of relationship with the Lord. Because the living entity realizes that one has got one's own spiritual identity, which is eternal. And in that spiritual identity, one is constantly serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whereas in the impersonal realization, one is that it is, the name itself is suggesting, it is impersonal. There is no person involved there. So in that state, so that state is also a high state of spiritual realization. But then that is not the summum bonum. That is not the highest state. Therefore, Krishna says, Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyaschashmi tatvata tato mam tattuto gyatva vishate tadanantaram. Bhaktya tu ananya shakya hameva vido arjuna gyatum drishtum cha tatvena praveshtam cha parantapa. So Krishna says that is bhaktya. So through the loving devotional service, Krishna can be known. Na sadhyati mam yogo na sankhya dharma uddhava na swadhyayas tapastyago yato bhaktir mamorjita. So Krishna says to Uddhava that, O Uddhava, no one can know me through na sadhyati mam yogo. Through the practice of the Ashtanga yoga, people cannot know me. Na sankhya, through the practice of the sankhya. Sankhya is the understanding of all the different elements that are there. For example, the earth, water, fire, air, ether, and then the mind, intelligence, false ego, and then the eyes, ears, nose, all the different elements that are in this material world. That is Sankhya. So one is trying to analyze all these elements. So Krishna says that no, you cannot know me by Sankhya. You cannot know even by Dharma, by execution of religious principles. Dharma Uddhava. Na swadhyayas, you cannot know me by self-study. Na tapas, you cannot know me by austerity. Na tyago, you cannot know me by renunciation even. Then how can you know me? Yato bhaktir mamorjita. Through loving devotional service, then you can know me. And what is this loving devotional service? It is this love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when one is hearing Krishna, one is immediately engrossed in the holy names of the Lord, totally enveloped by, and one is totally oblivious of everything else other than the name of the Lord. That is love for the Lord. When one is hearing the wonderful divine transcendental activities of the Lord, one is totally enraptured, and the whole focus, the whole concentration, the whole Madchitta madgat prana bodhayanta parasparam kathayantasya mam nityam tushyanti charamanti cha. That is loving devotional service to the Lord. When one's mind is totally absorbed, the whole body, the whole life force, Madchitta madgat prana bodhayanta parasparam. What is it engaged in? In talking about the Lord, Lord's divine pastimes, chanting the holy names of the Lord. And kathayantasya mam nityam. Constantly one is engaged in hearing and chanting and remembering the Lord. And how is that happening? Tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Tushyanti is totally fully satisfied, and ramanti is in a fully blissful state of mind. Because that is the original constitutional position of all the living entities. So Srila Prabhupada gives an example of the jaundice disease, where if one has got that disease, when one is tasting something sweet, it tastes bitter. So unfortunately, in the conditioned state of existence, that is the unfortunate state of the conditioned living entities. That our natural state is in association with the Lord, in remembrance of the Lord, in talking about the divine pastimes of the Lord. But because one has been in a conditioned state of existence since time immemorial, one does not know. Anadi bahirmukha jeev, Kṛṣṇa bhuli gela, atev Kṛṣṇa ved puran karela. So this is mentioned in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. It is said that the jiva, or the living entity, since time immemorial, anadi, so beginningless, one does not know when this has begun. Bahirmukha, one is unfortunately facing away from Kṛṣṇa. Instead of looking at Kṛṣṇa, one is facing away from Kṛṣṇa. So anadi bahirmukha jeev, Kṛṣṇa bhuli gela, has forgotten Kṛṣṇa, atev Kṛṣṇa ved puran karela. So it is said that that's why Kṛṣṇa has very mercifully, in a costlessly merciful way, all these wonderful Vedic literatures are present. Krishne swadhamopagate dharma jnana dibhisaha kalau nashta drisham esha puranarko dhunodita. Like, for example, the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam has come as as a rising sun after the departure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead back to his own abode. Krishna Swadhamopa. When Krishna goes, there is dharma and jnana is going along with him. The religiosity and the transcendental divine knowledge is going along with him. Swadhamopagate dharma jnana dibhisaha kalau nashta drishamesha. So immediately the Kali Yuga started. When Krishna went back home, back to Godhead, to his own abode, the Kali Yuga started at that time. And this is the costless mercy of the Lord that Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam actually arose as a sun. Puranarko dhunodita. So the whole pastime of Maharaj Parikshit being cursed by Shringi, and then the Takshaka coming to bite, and the 7 days being left. It's all the divine pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his unalloyed devotees, like Srila Parikshit Maharaj. And everything is being done so that all the living entities get this opportunity, this wonderful opportunity to hear these wonderful verses. So let us try and understand this particular verse here. Nandaṁ cha mokṣyati bhayād varuṇasya pāśād. So the first line of this verse mentions a pastime when Nanda Mahārāja went into the river to take his bath. And the lord of the river is Varuṇa. So Varuṇa Dev, because he was going to take bath in an inauspicious time, his servants, Varuṇa Dev's servants, actually took Nanda Mahārāja to the Varuṇa Loka, his Varuṇa Dev's place, and then everyone, all his Nanda Mahārāja's associates, got really afraid that Nanda Mahārāja has gone missing. Then they go and they go to Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa Mahabhaho Bhaktanam Abhyankara Tvameko Dahyamanana Apavargosi Samskrute. So this is the wonderful, total, pure, uninhibited surrender onto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the state of the mind of the Vrajavasis. They are constantly in a state of remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They never forget Kṛṣṇa. And we'll understand this actually in the next few lines. We actually understand it very clearly that that is their natural state of existence of the Vrajavasis, that they are constantly in remembrance of the Lord, and the circumstances that they are in is constantly making them remember the Lord as well. But why is the circumstances happening in such a way? Because they have in their consciousness, they constantly want to remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead creates those circumstances so that they can continuously remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here, there is. So this is a beautiful verse that Srimati Kunti Devi says: "Vipada santu ta shashvat tatra jagat guru bhavato darshanam yatsyat apunar bhava darshan." So Srimati Kunti Devi says in her prayers to Kṛṣṇa, she says that let these calamities keep befalling on me, O Kṛṣṇa. Vipada santu ta shashvat, continuously, unbrokenly. Why? Because bhavato darshanam yasyat apunar bhava darshan. Because when these calamities are happening, you are personally present with us, Kṛṣṇa. And when you are personally present with us, we do not see bhava darshanam. We do not see the cycle of birth and death. Because the biggest challenge in this existence is this punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. It's constantly one is taking birth and constantly one is dying. This particular lifetime, whatever is happening in this particular lifetime, is, of course, there is a lot of difficulties that one goes through. But if these difficulties are happening eternally, it is even more. It is like a state where one can never come out of, unless one is consciously aware that this is happening. So that is the beginning of the realization that somehow or other one is in this unending cycle of birth and death. And if one realizes that, first state is that realization that yes, this is the current condition, that unfortunately I am in an unending cycle of birth and death. If that happens, then one can start taking the step to understand how one can come out of this punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jatare śayānam, as Srila Shankaracharya mentions in Bhaja Govinda, that constantly one is taking birth and constantly one is dying, constantly one is in the womb of different mothers. Punarapi janani iha sansare bahudustare kripaya pare pahi murare. So Srila Shankaracharya says that, O Kṛṣṇa, O Murare, it is so difficult to transcend this unlimited cycle of birth and death. So please show your costless mercy and help us to overcome this unlimited cycle of birth and death. So this is samashritaya ye padapallava plavam mahat padam punya yasho murare bhavam buddhi vatsa padam param padam yat vipadamna tesham. So this is when one is totally samyak rupena ashrita, when one is totally surrendered onto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he is considered as the boat or the ship that will help one cross this ocean of birth and death. So samashritaye padapallava plavam mahatpadam punya yasho murare punya yasha. So this is what is happening in this particular verse. We are constantly glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that activity by itself is very pious. One is cleansing oneself from this unlimited cycle of birth and death. The conditionality that it has brought in us, it gets cleansed when one is punya shravana kirtana hridyantasto hi abhadrani vidunoti suhrit satam. So this is the samashritaya padapallava mahatpadam punya yasho murare bhavam buddhi vatsa padam param padam. So this material world is called an ocean of birth and death, bhava ambudhi. But that becomes like a water in the hoof print of a calf. Vatsa padam param padam yad vipadamna padam yad vipadamna tesha. So at every step in this material world, there is vipada. There is this different challenges that come, different types of difficulties that come. But for one who has totally surrendered onto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, ye yatha mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamiham mama vartamanu vartante manushya partha sarvasha. So Kṛṣṇa mentions in Bhagavad Gita that whatever way one surrenders onto Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa reciprocates accordingly to those devotees. So here we see, so Nanda Mahārāja had gone to take the path at the wrong time, in an inauspicious time. He was captured by Varuṇa Dev and his servants, and then the associates of Nanda Mahārāja go to Kṛṣṇa and Balram, and then they go to the Varuṇa Loka, the abode of Lord Varuṇa, and then Lord Varuṇa immediately offers his obeisances to Kṛṣṇa and Balram, and he immediately releases Nanda Mahārāja. So that is the story here that is being mentioned. Nandaṁ cha mokṣyati bhayād varuṇasya pāśād. So the mokṣyati bhayād. So he is releasing Nanda Mahārāja from the fear of being captured by Varuṇa Dev. Nandaṁ cha mokṣyati bhayād varuṇasya pāśād gopān bileṣu pihitān maya-sūnunā cha. So this is the next line of this verse, where it is mentioned that the cowherd men bileṣu in the caves of the mountains, pihitān placed, maya-sūnunā by the son of Maya cha also. So this is the second pastime that is being mentioned in this verse. In this pastime, it is about the Vyomasura. Vyomasura is the son of Maya Danava. And Vyomasura, this is a wonderful pastime where Kṛṣṇa and his cowherd friends are playing the different games. So this is one of the pastimes of the Lord. When they're going for pasturing the cows, they are playing. When the cows are pasturing, cows are having their food. The Kṛṣṇa and his cowherd friends are playing, and there is this game that is happening where one is playing the game of police and thief. And then there are some cowherd boys who are acting as police, and some cowherd boys who are hiding as thief, and some cowherd boys who are playing the part of a cattle. And they are all one is trying to find another, and during this time Vyomasura takes the form of one of the cowherd friends of Kṛṣṇa, and he starts taking all those cowherd friends of Kṛṣṇa and putting them in the cave. Majority of them are put in the cave, and then he closes the door of the cave. So Kṛṣṇa knows this, and then Kṛṣṇa just defeats Vyomasura. He understands that this is Vyomasura who has disguised himself as one of the cowherd boys, cowherd friends, and he kills Vyomasura. So this is the wonderful pastime of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, where all these calamities happen to the Vrajavasis, the people who are staying in Vrindavana with Kṛṣṇa, but Kṛṣṇa is always protecting them. At every moment, Kṛṣṇa is protecting them. And with these, we see in these the first two lines of this verse, nandaṁ cha mokṣyati bhayād varuṇasya pāśād. So there he has saved Nanda Mahārāja from the capture of Varuṇadev. And then gopān bileṣu pihitān maya-sūnunā. And in the second one, we see that the cowherd friends of Kṛṣṇa, they are freed from the capture of Vyomasura, who is the son of Maya Danava. And then the third line, ahny āpṛtaṁ niśi, śayānam atiśrameṇa. So the third line is mentioning, so if you look at the word by word, ahny āpṛtaṁ, being very engaged during the daytime, niśi at night, śayānam lying down, atiśrameṇa because of hard labor. So this is being said about the state of the Vrajavasis, the people in Vrindavana who are staying with Kṛṣṇa. So it is said here that if we look at Srila Prabhupada's translation there, so he says that also to the inhabitants of Vrindavana who are busy working during daytime and sleeping soundly at night because of their hard labor in the day, Lord Kṛṣṇa awarded promotion to the highest planet in the spiritual sky. So it is said, lokaṁ vikuṇṭham upaneṣyati gokulaṁ sma. So lokaṁ is planet, vikuṇṭham the spiritual sky, upaneṣyati he awarded, gokulaṁ the highest planet, sma certainly. So here we see that it is mentioned that the people of Vrindavana, the Vrajavasis, they were working very hard during the day and sleeping soundly during the night. So this is the we can take many learnings from that particular line of that verse. The first learning, if we look at it in a very practical, gross way, one can understand that if one is engaged in doing one's duty very nicely during the day with full focus, full attention, full energy, not only is one doing their duty very nicely, but because one has done it so nicely, one gets tired at night and then one sleeps soundly at night. Why one? So there is, sometimes we see, unfortunately it is very common in this contemporary world, that one is not insomnia. as they say, that one is not getting proper sleep at night. What is the reason for that? The reason is that if one has not engaged oneself in a work that keeps one totally focused and takes out all the energies in a proper way, one will not get tired at night. And if one does not get tired at night, one will not get a sound sleep at night. So it is a very, very kind of logical, if you look at this from the perspective of normal bodily consciousness of existence, it gives some nice learnings for the bodily state of existence also. But there is a very transcendental divine meaning to that line as well. And the divine meaning there is that as Kṛṣṇa mentions in Bhagavad Gita, yajñārtha karmana anyatra lokoyam karma bandhana tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. So that was a state of the Vrajvasis. So if you look at the Ramya Kachid Upasana Vrajavadhu Vargena ya Kalpita, if you look at the cowherd ladies of Vrindavana and the cowherd men of Vrindavana, who are looking after the cows and who are looking after the farming, who are doing the business, who are doing all their daily activities, but their mind was always thinking of Kṛṣṇa. And whenever they were talking of Kṛṣṇa. Whenever they were hearing about Kṛṣṇa. So even though they were engaged in hard labor, which seemingly was some conditioned kind of work, but because they were always in their mind focused on Kṛṣṇa, whenever they got a free time, they were focused on Kṛṣṇa. So the cowherd ladies of Vrindavana, the gopis, they were doing all their day-to-day work of like churning the butter or feeding their family, cooking for their family, doing so many different work that they do. But while they were doing the work, they were constantly remembering Kṛṣṇa. What is Kṛṣṇa doing now? Is Kṛṣṇa safe now? When Kṛṣṇa comes back, how will I serve Kṛṣṇa? So this was their constantly, even though they were doing all their household activities, they mentally, every time they have free time or every time they were doing some mechanical activity, for example, where the mind's involvement was not needed in terms of thinking, the thought was automatically going to Kṛṣṇa. And that is the goal of the human form of life, that the one automatically takes shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord. Whenever there is time, so kalosmi, so Kṛṣṇa actually mentions that I am the time. And mrityu sarva haraschaham udbhavata bhavishyatam kirtir vak shri cha narinam smritir medha dhritir kshama. As Kṛṣṇa mentions in Bhagavad Gita, that so he is amritam chaiva mrityuscha sadasachaham arjuna tapamyaham aham varsham nigranami utsrjami cha. So amritam chaiva mrityuscha sadasachaham arjuna. So Kṛṣṇa mentions in Bhagavad Gita that actually he is everywhere. So if we look at the state of tropical countries, for example, there is a lot of heat. So Kṛṣṇa says that I am that heat. If you look at countries like here, in this part of the world, in Ireland, there is a lot of rain. So Kṛṣṇa says, aham varsham, I am the rain. He is the heat, he is the rain. Nigranami utsrajami cha. So whatever gets destroyed or whatever gets created, that is Kṛṣṇa. Amritam chaiva mrityuscha. Kṛṣṇa is immortality, Kṛṣṇa is death. Sadasachaham Arjuna. Kṛṣṇa is the truth, and whatever is not the truth, that is also Kṛṣṇa. Why? Because the energy of the Lord is non-different from the Lord himself. So this is the achintya bheda bheda tattva of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that simultaneously one and different. So Kṛṣṇa, the energy of the Lord is coming from the Lord. So in that way, he is non-different. But he is still different also, because he is not the energy. It is coming from him. So the example given is that of ekadeshe sthitas agni jyotsna vistarini yatha parasya brahmana shaktir tathedam akhilam jagat. So just like the fire is present at one place, but it spreads its heat and light everywhere. So that is the way that the Supreme Goloka eva nivasati akhilatma bhuto Govinda madhipurusham tamaham bhajami. The Supreme Personality of Godhead in his personal form is present in his personal abode of Goloka Vrindavana. Ananda chinmaya rasa pratibhavitabhe stabhirya eva nijarupataya kalabhi Goloka eva nivasati akhilatma bhuto Govinda madhipurusham tamaham bhajami. So Ananda chinmaya rasa pratibhavitabhes. That is his constitutional position. He's full of Ananda and Chinmaya, full of bliss, Raso Vaisaha. So that is more. And since the living entities are Mama Eva Amsha Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanātana, as Kṛṣṇa says, that all the living entities in this whole universe are my eternal part and parcels. So that way, all the living entities are full of bliss and full of consciousness as well. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabhis Tabhiri Eva Nijarupataya Kalabhi. Kalabhi. So it is mentioned they are expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Goloka eva nivasati akhilatma bhuto Govinda madhipurusham tamaham bhajami. So this is the constant state of existence of the Vrajavasis, the residents of Vrindavana. Ahny āpṛtaṁ niśi śayānam atiśrameṇa lokaṁ vikuṇṭham upaneṣyati gokulaṁ sma. So even though the residents of Vrindavana, the Vrajavasis, they were working very hard in the daytime and sleeping soundly at night, which might seem to indicate that this is some kind of activity where one is karma kanda. So there is this term called karma kanda, where one is working very hard in the day, and so this is nidraya hriyate naktam vyayavena cha vavaya divacha artha ihaya rajan kutumba bharanenava. So this is mentioned by Srila Shukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. So that is the karma kanda. In the karma kanda, or the activities where one is doing the fruitive activities with the aim of getting some results back, either as a benefit in this life or as a benefit in the next lives that one takes. If that is the frame of mind of activity, then that also looks like a hard work, and possibly that can also give one sound sleep. But that is not the real state of existence in the human form of life. The real state of existence in the human form of life is where ahny āpṛtaṁ niśi śayānam atiśrameṇa. So one is still working hard and one is getting a sound sleep, but that is happening because in the free time, one is constantly remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All the activities are being done yagyartha karmana. So as it is mentioned, all the activities are being done as an offering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So one is not thinking about the results, that I'm going to get good result because of doing this good activity. And if unknowingly one has done bad activity, one is afraid that I'm going to get a bad result because I did the bad activity. Unknowingly, knowingly or unknowingly, if one does any activity, one has to get the result for that activity. This is the law of this universe. So that is karma granthi nibandhana. Chindanti kovidastasya kona kuryat katharatim. So this karma granthi, or this constantly one is totally just entangled in this world of action and reaction, will always happen unless one is totally surrendered onto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When one is surrendered onto Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is not hankering after anything. So this is the Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kaṅkṣati. Srila Prabhupada actually mentions in the purport about Mam jayo avya bicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Krishna actually, Srila Prabhupada actually mentions in the purport about, he quotes, he paraphrases that verse as well. He says that if one is constantly remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead, avyabhicharini bhakti, that is what the residents of Vrindavana were doing. They were constantly, without no, so there was no stop in their remembrance of the Lord. There was so much attachment towards the Lord that that connection was never broken. And that is the wonderful state of existence of the Vrajavasis. They were always remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And because if the consciousness is absorbed in something, that consciousness takes that form of that absorption in something. We can actually see this in our, if someone is interested in a particular field or area, and one is thinking about that particular field or area, one totally becomes absorbed in that area. And this was a constant state of existence of the residents of Vrindavana. They were constantly absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna. And that absorption in the thoughts of Krishna is bhakti. When the thoughts are this machita madgat prana, bodhayanta parasparam, kathayantasya mam nityam tushyanti charamanti cha. So Krishna actually says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadhami buddhiyogam tam yena mam upayanti te. That is Tesham evanu kampartham maham ajnana jamtama nashyami atma bhavasto jnana dipena bhasmata. So those who are constantly remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead, chanting, hearing, and engaging in His service, that state of existence is the highest state of existence. And that was the state of the existence of the residents of Vrindavana, and that is what is mentioned in this verse. Nandaṁ cha mokṣyati bhayād varuṇasya pāśād. So we have discussed that. The first line of this verse is describing how Nanda Mahārāja was liberated from the capturing of Varuna Deva in his Varuṇa loka by Kṛṣṇa and Balaram. And then gopān bileṣu pihitān maya-sūnunā. The cowherd friends of Kṛṣṇa were freed from the Vyomasura, who was trying to capture them within the cave. So that was done by Kṛṣṇa. Then the third line is ahny āpṛtaṁ niśi śayānam atiśrameṇa. So this is about all the residents of Vrindavana. So they were working very hard during the day, and then in the night time they were getting very sound sleep. And even in their sleep, even in their dreams, before going to the deep sleep state, they were always dreaming and always remembering Kṛṣṇa. So because of that, lokaṁ vikuṇṭham upaneṣyati gokulaṁ sma. So that is the last line of this verse, which says that because their thoughts were absorbed, and that is the inner meaning of this verse. Even though the third line of this verse is saying that they were working very hard and sleeping soundly at night, the inner meaning is their remembrance and their activities and their talks and their hearing, everything was in relationship with Kṛṣṇa. And therefore, it is mentioned, lokaṁ vikuṇṭham upaneṣyati gokulaṁ sma. All these acts. So Lord Kṛṣṇa awarded promotion to the highest planet in the spiritual sky, to the residents of Vrindavana. And the conclusion of this verse is, all these acts are transcendental and certainly prove without any doubt His Godhood. So that is the transcendental position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that the devotees of the Lord, naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavrata modhoyam nabhijanati mamebhya paramavayam. So there is this mahamaya and there is this yoga maya. Yoga maya is the internal potency of the Lord, and the internal potency of the Lord is acting in Vrindavana. And then even though people in Vrindavana understand that Kṛṣṇa has got some powers, but they do not think of him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because if they think of him as Supreme Personality of Godhead, those beautiful relationships will not happen. So the Yoga Maya creates that covering through which the residents of Vrindavana still consider Kṛṣṇa as their friend. For example, the cowherd friends will consider as friend. Nanda Mahārāja will still consider Kṛṣṇa as his son. But then the Mahamaya potency is covering Kṛṣṇa for the people who are who don't want to consider Kṛṣṇa as a Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there is this Mahamaya and Yogamaya aspects, the energy of the Lord. With that, I would like to conclude this verse. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Kṛṣṇa. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Kṛṣṇa. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Kṛṣṇa. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pāśād Deshatarane. Sarvam Shri Krishnarpanamastu Krishne Matirastu. Hare Kṛṣṇa. Thank you very much. Hare Kṛṣṇa.